times he likes to purchase apartment complexes. And I hope this helps you guys out. I'll get to the containers in a moment, but I love what Bill has done, is that he buys apartment complexes and then he raises the rent immediately by $100 and $150 per person every month. And everybody hates that, so they yell at me, and then they because Bill's not there, then they have to leave because they can't afford the rent. But what I do is I come behind them and I end up flipping each apartment as each person moves out. Bill completely re-landscapes the place, new pavement, new everything. He refinances on the entire apartment complex and either uses that money to get another apartment or he resells it to another investor. This guy makes a ton of money, and I did really well with him. But toward the end, he decided, you know what? I don't want to hire contractors anymore. I want to hire hourly waged employees, because he thought he would save a lot of money. But what happened was it drove him into the ground, and he almost lost his company because all the employees were milking the hours and they did not really help very much. That about a year later, he called me back after I left and he said, hey, Mike, can you come back? Because I'm done with these employees. But he goes, I went, no, I've got something else. So in my opinion, if you ever want to flip a property, pay for speed by always getting the same material, same everything, where you don't have to stress about what you need to buy. Make it very quick, because his number one goal was do it in 30 days or less and get on the market and hopefully sell it in 30 days or less. His timing is he likes to do it in 60 days on each property is what he wants. And so it's very quick is what he tries to do. So, but that's my background. Is I've done a lot of remodeling, worked with a lot of investors and realtors and had a lot of fun with it. But I got tired of traveling, even though I am traveling now. I'm going an 8-hour drive to deliver a container, but I generally spend my time in my shop with my guys. But what got me into the cargo containers is I built a couple Airbnbs behind backyards for investors, where we done almost like a tiny home in a way that we built in their backyard for them to rent out to people. We registered them as ADU dwellings to the city when they build them. And it worked out pretty well. And then I ended up doing some cabins for a couple folks. And then my wife one day, this is rather personal, but my wife, she is a very, very, very big prepper. And this was way before COVID-19, probably about a year before COVID-19. She said, I have a really bad feeling that we need to get something ready. We need to get better prepared. She had all her food storage. We are completely locked and loaded. Like if anything happened whatsoever, she can get us out of our house in 30 minutes to go somewhere if a disaster happened. So when COVID happened, we were not one bit scared and everything was peachy keen with us. But even a year before COVID happened, she and her family are really, really big preppers. And her father even had a big talk with me telling me, Mike, I need you to get someplace prepared, either a camper or a cabin somewhere. So, because the goal is for prepping is that you need to be out of the city within 30 minutes to an hour if something really chaotic happened. And that's basically what her number one goal is. So we built a cargo container bunkhouse out in Nevada in a little town called Montello. And where we basically, it's out in the middle of nowhere where not a soul is in sight. And, where we basically can have all our food supply and everything else. And on my website actually shows a picture of it. It's a cedar looking container home with a supply bunker with our food storage was in there. And ever since I built that, I took some pictures and I thought, you know what, this is gonna be kind of cool to build for some people. So I showed it off to a few people and I put on a couple ads and saying, hey, I could build this if you want me to. And it just took off like crazy. And we started building mainly for preppers. But then all of a sudden, I had investors I used to work with. I told them, hey guys, if you want to rent this as an Airbnb out in the woods, you know, I could build this and it's pretty quick. You just do it out of a container. And a lot of investors got overwhelmingly involved. I had one guy out of California, I built about 5 for, and I got another out of Salt Lake. I built a couple more Airbnbs for him as well out of Park City. Just people around the area. Actually, I got another one in Texas. We did another Airbnb for. But yeah, they generally don't even put them in backyards. Most of them just put them out in the middle of nowhere. These days now, they like to be out. And generally, these guys have been renting these things for about probably $100, $150 a piece, what they do. So, but the thing is, when we started building these, my number one goal is I want these to be completely self-sufficient, where if a disaster did happen, where are you going to get your gas? Where are you going to get your power or everything else if disaster happened? So what I did is I made these completely self-sufficient, where it has a full solar package, where it has 20 100 amp hour batteries. So it has 2,000 amp hours of battery backup system, where the goal is the stove, the fridge, microwave, the mini split system, everything's electric powered. So nothing's gas. So you could basically, if a disaster happened, all your power is supplied by the solar. And so basically my number one goal is I want you to be able to have enough power where you can run your mini split or cook at night and even cook eggs and bacon in the morning and still have enough power. Usually you can have about a quarter of your battery bank. For Airbnbs, where tenants for Airbnbs, they're not going to want to turn on a generator when they're going to want to go stay somewhere. They don't want to have it a complete set it and forget it type of system, where you can basically set up your where they can walk into your unit and the power's already working and they can stay in your place, and then by the next day it's power's still working and they don't have to yell at the landlords, hey, why is my power not working? So because solar is very sensitive subject, where it's not unlimited energy, because if it's cloudy or a rainy day or something happens, or even in Texas if it's frozen, then you're going to need to make sure that you have a backup power system. But that's why we have so many batteries to put in our containers, to make sure we have enough power to last all night and even in the morning for that tenant, so the batteries can charge up back again. And it usually takes about 2 or 3 hours for the batteries to back up again. So anyway, but what's interesting is that even though I build these for preppers, people do buy these so they can be completely off grid and be in very remote places that is safe. I know these are, I'm talking to real estate investors. The most success I have seen with real estate investors using these are 3 different ways that they have done this. One is I have an investor named Craig out of California. He is the most genius Airbnb investor I've ever met, where he has a little development. He bought about 20 acres out of Santa Cruz. He has about, I think, of over a dozen units up in these mountains or the hills of Santa Cruz. And what's funny is in these 20 acres, he can look out and you don't even know that there's anybody out there. It's just gorgeous green trees, just right outside of the city of Santa Cruz. And he just made it as a little oasis of a little community of cargo containers, and actually had Airstreams and a couple tiny homes in there. And what he did is he put a spa back there, a nice sitting area. He had a primary house where they could share a kitchen, where everyone could use the kitchen if they want. And he had like a sauna, you name it, he had it for a place to kick back somewhere and relax. And when my family and we delivered a container home and stayed there for the night, I told him, dude, I would pay $200 a night to be at this place. But he charges about $130, $140 a night. And what he does, he uses it for weddings, business expeditions, where businesses go there for to enjoy, teamwork, learning how to do teamwork and other stuff like that. He doesn't just utilize it just for individuals. He really works hard to find groups of people to stay in his Airbnbs. And because of that, he maximizes earnings really well, and he made really good money out of it because he knew how to work with groups, is how he did it very lately. But things are picking up now for him, but that's at least an idea of how he can get packages for people, even families, to rent out the entire place and rent them for days and days if you want. I got another investor out of Texas where he actually has a really awesome idea that he did, where he made every because these are not amazing ideas, where they're just so what they've done, this guy, what he's done is he had a little just like a tiny house practically. It's a really small house and it's right along the beach, and I believe in Houston. It's Houston, right along the beach there, I believe. And but he was out there just looking over the beach there, and he basically rents that Airbnb. And then he had another one that was not too far off distance to a nice woodsy kind of area, really beautiful area with a little river going by it. And he just makes it as a little getaway places where it's just you and the house and nobody else around you. So it's completely opposite of Craig, where Craig has groups of people, but this guy does the individual experience out of his Airbnbs. He charges $300 to $400 a night for his Airbnbs. But what he does is he includes everything. He says he wants to maximize their experience, where when they go to the Airbnb, oh, did someone make a comment? The sound keeps going on and off. I don't know, but can you guys still hear me?
You were frozen there for a minute. You seem to be okay now. You might have just gone through a bad spot or something.
Okay, so I'm not even driving. I'm just parked here at the exit. So, but with this,
you kind of glitched and froze, but it seems okay now.
Okay. So what this guy's done, he includes everything. Like when you open the fridge, when you go to his Airbnb, there's like snacks in there already. There's like water bottles, maybe a glass of wine or something that it's all included. Well, for $400, it better be, I'm thinking. But then even when at the beach, he has like play toys, like boogie boards or something like that. Just he has this stuff all included. Even the place out in the woods, he had a 4-wheeler already there next to the place, where you could just ride a 4-wheeler and just extra things that just made it a fun experience. And then what he does is he tries to make it almost like a travel agency in a way, where he plans their trip, where he says, hey, you could stay at this place along the beach, and then you can go along into the woods on your next destination on your Airbnb trip for your vacation. So instead of booking him for one Airbnb, he books one family to 4 to 5 different Airbnb locations as a vacation location, or like a travel kind of vacation or something. And highly successful. He makes an insane amount of money, it sounds like, from what he does. But he says the land was expensive. That was the hard part for him. But getting the houses built and everything else set up was the easy part, he said. So that's some of the greatest success I have seen out of Airbnbs and real estate investing and plopping these somewhere. The last thing I'd share with you guys is how these can get approved with the cities and counties. It's really hard getting these in the cities unless you register as an ADU dwelling, which is called accessory dwelling unit. Don't ever mention tiny home. Don't ever mention container home. Just tell the city, I need to register this as an ADU dwelling. I want to place ADU dwelling in my bed. Colorado's up now. But then the other thing, oh, you still can't hear me?
Well,
oh my goodness. Can you hear me now?
I think you're good again now. Go ahead, try it.
Okay. Let me see if I'm in a dip, so I'm going to pull up a little bit, and hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better if that works. So, but can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. But you guys, hopefully you heard everything I said about Texas, right? Or about what he's done there with the Airbnbs.
Sorry, say that again.
Okay, hopefully you guys heard what my friend has done in Texas, right, with his Airbnbs.
I heard that he stocked the refrigerators and with water. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So, yeah, I got about 2 bars here, and I still only have about 2 bars, so I really apologize.
It's all right. I can hear you now. I think we caught that. He goes out of his way to provide extras and stocks water and.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So someone's asking about the ADU. ADU means accessory dwelling units. Check with your county, check with your city, and just make sure if they approve ADU dwellings, because that means they can place a house that is less than 200 square feet in the backyard of your house. But California and Oregon, 100%, they've been accepting that. That's been pretty easy. But other states, you got to make sure if they accept it or not. But as long as something's less than 200 square feet on a temporary foundation, almost like it's mobile, usually they're very happy with that. That's also another reason why I make these completely off grid, where as long as it has a compost toilet, solar, and all the off grid capabilities, then you, as long as you don't hook up to the utilities of the city, because the moment you hook up to the utilities of the city permanently, then they can tax you. That's the biggest thing, is that they can add that value to that unit that is permanently placed on your property, to your house, and the utilities are connected to the building, then that's a great way for them to start taxing you. But if it's temporary, where it's on skids, or if it is on a trailer, is acting like an RV, then they only require someone to live in it within only 6 months maximum, is what a lot of cities require. And but if you live there for more than 6 months, then you either have to fill out an application for that, or you just got to get kicked out. You can't stay there for more than 6 months. So it really depends on the area. Another thing I found out is that if the property is more than 2 acres of land, I found that for a majority of counties, that you can have a second dwelling there, almost like a dwelling for a helper to help you on your property, because it's technically like farm property, is what many of them recognize it as. Because you can, for at least 2 acres, they allow you to have livestock. And if you have livestock, they can allow you to put another dwelling there to have a caretaker there to watch the livestock or farm or whatever it may be. But that's been a regulation that has been accepted by many counties. So there's just so many different loopholes you could face, but as long as you just don't mention the word.
I think when we were having trouble hearing you, you were saying something about don't mention tiny home. Is that right?
Don't mention tiny homes. Don't mention cargo container homes. Mention it as an accessory dwelling unit. That is the thing you need to mention, because it's the wording that you have to put out there, because it is an accessory dwelling unit. No matter if it's a stick-built house, a tiny house on wheels, or a cargo container home, it is an accessory dwelling unit, or it's a mobile home, in a way. And they're just used to those terms. Things have changed now these days. It's a new trend with the tiny homes, or even with the cargo containers. That's a new trend that cities are just not used to it, and they'll get scared going, oh, I'm not familiar with that. And usually with the government, they like to go one direction on their decisions, that if you try and give them a different decision, then they're not going to listen to you, and they may just tell you to fly kite. So that's why you need to know what their regulations are.
Someone's asking you to repeat what you were saying about the 2.5 acres. I think you said if you have 2.5 acres, it's generally no problem because you can use it. Say it's like a worker home or something.
Yeah. So basically, it allows you to have a caretaker on the property to watch the livestock or the farm or something that you may have. It just depends on the minimum acre requirement for you to basically have that available, is what it is. So you just got to ask the city, what is the minimum acre requirement to have a secondary dwelling for like a caretaker, or for ADU dwelling is what is required. And so that's been I've been having great success going through loopholes by calling the city for my customers, because my customers, I feel bad saying this, they don't know better, and they just call the city going, oh, I want to put a container or a tiny home there. And I tell them, no, you don't want to say that. Yeah. And so I tell them, let me call the city. And hopefully they didn't mention the address. And I tell the city, hey, we want to place an accessory dwelling unit on this property, and I'm the contractor, and I'm going to be building a pre-manufactured home for them, and I need to know what are your regulations for placing it there. And so, and then what I do is I could go through an inspector in my city.
So basically, it's all in the presentation, huh? You got to say the right thing.
It's all, you got to say the right things, even on legal paperwork with an attorney. I've learned many things about you. It's all in the words that you say. That's why if you go through documents or just letters as well, if you have a letter documentation, that's another, I know it's a longer process, but if you write a letter to the city or county asking about the accessory dwelling unit, and they write back to you and they state that it's okay, you keep that paper like gold, because now you have proof telling them, look, you accepted what I wanted, and it's on this paper, and that paper is a legal document coming from the city stating that you're okay having an accessory dwelling unit on your property if they gave you a yes on that. So that's why it's important to have that. Or if they send you an email, that's another way too, where the inspector can send you an email for that. Oh, they're asking for the price ranges that I build. They really vary. They're actually pretty expensive. my prices start for a 40-foot cargo container. They start about $55,000 for a 40-foot container. That's my standard. That does not come with solar or the water filtration system, but it has a full kitchen, appliances included, and I have siding at least one side of the container on the 40-foot side. But the other three sides look like a regular container. I prefer that because it shows the character that you have a container home, because people want to see that, because when they rent it out, they go, I got to stay in a container home. They get excited.
And so then, Mark, on that model, what you have to hook up to water, sewer, whatever, electricity or whatever you have existing?
Yeah. For like 55,000, you got to hook up to utilities. But for about 85,000 and $90,000, I can put siding all the way around it, windows all the way around it, make it look like a regular house. And also has a full solar package with a water filtration system. It's completely apocalyptic ready for whatever you want, or just completely ready for anything, even for renting off grid. They're my highest end homes, and actually majority of my customers buy those ones. Rarely I do the ones around 50,000. I've only done a couple of those, and I built about 18 of these so far. So and actually another thing to heads up on everybody on this. So I am very busy at what I do. I am booked right now till October, but what I recommend is if you can hire a contractor, get the cargo container if you want something unique, and have them build them with plans in the future, so you can have something, so you can purchase some from us, because the city then can inspect it while it's built in your county. So it's definitely easy for you to get approval, because they can watch every building process locally. But when it comes to also affordability, prices are going up exponentially. Everybody knows that right now. Like I bought a 20-foot high cube cargo container home, and I always get the one tripper containers. So they're pretty much brand new cargo containers. I never buy the old ones, because the old containers that are well used, they're smelly, there's dents all over it, and you can't track what was shipped on it. On a one tripper container, my wholesaler has a software where he tracks what was shipped for the first time on the container. So I'll know if there's any hazardous materials transported on it. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to know if you had oil or something transported in your cargo container that could be harmful to your health. Because the very first one I bought just smelled so nasty that I put three 5-gallon buckets of Kills inside, and it still did not smell the best. And it was really hard. So you have to be careful, and I recommend getting the high cubes, but they cost 2 or 3 times the amount of a really well-used container. But in my opinion, they're still worth it, because they're brand new. You know, they're not harmful to you as long as you do a background check on it. There's a serial number on the side of the container where you can actually do that background check to know what was used on it when it was transported overseas. So, but about 6 months ago, I bought a 20-foot high cube container for probably about $6,500. But just 2 days ago, I bought one exact same one for about $9,500. So they're going up in cost, and including my solar and my cabinets. Just prices are going up on everything right now, unfortunately.
I did hear that building prices are expected to start coming down pretty here soon. But
I hope so.
All, if you have the land, 55,000 for an Airbnb is pretty cheap.
Yeah, for a lot of people that's still pretty good. So anyway, but we're trying to make it affordable, but I started at probably at 45,000 when I first built them, and then I took them up to 55,000. And just the way the prices are going up, I'm looking at going up to 60,000 now, because just the way the material cost is going. I still say we have a ways to go till the prices go down, but that's just my opinion. But we'll know what happens when it happens, I guess, when the price, what happens with the prices. So, and I guess the last thing I can mention for when it comes to investors that want to look in, or real estate agents that want to look into getting these units, my opinion is be like Bill. Just make, if you want to get multiple units, just do it almost like cookie cutters, where you can get them built really quick and move them out. But if you go custom, they take a lot longer. We take about maybe 2 or 3 weeks longer on custom builds. And if you want to be like Bill, say pay for speed, I could do that, where we make it very simple and very standard, but it just depends on what you want to do. But that's why on my website, we do have standard floor plans, but if people want to go custom, then it's a whole new ball game when I do that. And then I guess the last thing is people always ask about land preparation. When you want to put these on land, most people like to put them on gravel and put some railroad ties down there, but I always recommend people to compact the gravel and make sure that we can get on there, because whenever someone doesn't compact the gravel, we get stuck. And usually I have to pull my driver out, or the owner and his truck and my truck. Sometimes both of our trucks have to try and pull my driver out. So we've had some fun experiences trying to get these pulled out if the owner doesn't properly prepare the land. Either to have a cement pad as a very rebar, and then the middle needs to be at least 4 inches with mesh, wire mesh in the middle. Then the next step is either columns. You have 16-inch columns going below your frost line, which is anywhere from 32 to 42 inches deep, depends on what your frost line is. And I recommend having columns in the middle and on the corners, and then have hurricane straps on the corners, just like a regular house, to mount to the containers, because city generally requires that. Then the next step is having footings, just like a regular house. You got to dig down, put your footings down, stem walls up, and then either pour concrete pad. And then the last thing, that's why I want to mention this to you guys, is our realtors recommend you not waste the space of that crawl space of the footings, but put a basement in there and have a stairway going down the basement. Then you could double the square footage of the cargo container, because that will up the value of it if you double the square footage by having a basement in your crawl space. So if you're going to do stem walls and footings, might as well make a basement out of it if you want to. It costs a little bit more, but I've had many realtors recommend me to do that. So, but other than that, it's a fun business. A lot of people are big time into this. I won't mention many of the reasons why we're so busy. A lot of political stuff, because we are heavily involved in a lot of people who give us to net income for rentals or for Airbnbs. I have investors involved now where they actually are investing in our units for stock models. And it's been working out really well for them as well. I'm thinking about in the future of getting investors involved, maybe in the future where we're going to do our own land deals, where I want to place them on land and sell them. And because we already know how to place them ourselves. And I thought it'd be fun where we actually find recreational lots and we'll just place them on there ourselves, because we already know what to do, and then resell it and just up the value. But we haven't gotten into that yet. But I have investors in my company right now that fund my stock units. They mentioned it. We're already very busy building the stock. So other than that, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but that's what we do, and we do everything we can to help people get MBs. But I would love to help you any way possible. Help you get them approved if possible for your cities, or even just help you be better prepared.
Mark, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Through your website?
So I don't know if there's any questions anybody may have on there.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Mark? Through your website?
Yeah, just go to contact us, and just go to the contact us section, and you can ask me any questions. Or I guess there's my cell phone number, and you can text me. Texting is always the easiest way to get a hold of me.
If you say it, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, it's 208-912-6970. And yeah, texting is always easier for me. Emails, I check it here and there periodically, but texting, I could talk to my phone while I'm driving and respond back to someone.
I do have a question in the chat from Antoine. Are there different regulations when using a container as commercial property versus residential?
Yeah, I have, you know, what's funny? The most common commercial units everybody wants is coffee houses.
Oh,
I
cool.
get a lot of people want to do those. They basically want to put them out somewhere. So the best thing for a commercial coffee house is just put on a trailer and make a deal with a landlord in a strip mall and say, hey, can I rent out this parking slot area and use this for my business to rent out a coffee spot? And I have one guy already had approval, but I never heard from him again for some reason. But he told me he said he cut a deal with the landlord of the strip mall and wanted to place it there. And two other situations that I had. So I haven't really made any commercial sales, but these are experiences I've had with commercial people. Another guy's a car dealership. He basically just had empty parking lot area, but no building. And he wanted me to build one for him where it's just an office, a bathroom, and solar panels on it because he didn't want to hassle paying $8,000 is what it cost him to get the utility company put electricity there. So he says, hey, I'll just hire you to build me a container office with solar, and then I don't have to pay $8,000 for the electrical. And he basically was going to have his office there for his car dealership. I don't know how he was going to do for approval with the city for that one, but basically he just wanted to avoid the utilities, and it was going to be a portable unit. So maybe the city won't have a huge hard time if it's portable, because it's just a parking lot. All it was practically, but I bet he still has to get his business license approved for what he would do for that. Because I believe with dealers, they do not have the most flexible regulations. They're pretty strict when it comes to being a dealer. The final one was, there was a lady, she loves to make cookies and cookies and pastry stuff. But she wanted to go to fairs and other stuff like that. And she was going to put on a trailer and go to different fairs. And also she wanted to park it next to a specific commercial building. And she mentioned to me she had her license approved. She already showed her business plan to a bank to get a pre-approval, but then she had a baby and she couldn't do it. So because she ended up being a mother, she wasn't able to do that. But all I know is she got pre-approved by the city for what she wanted to do. And she also had pre-approval by the building next to her to park it there to work her pastry company. So, but she told me that maybe a year from now, after her kid grows up more, she wanted to still do it. But those are the only three scenarios that I found what happens to the city. But all I can say is if it's going to be permanent, you're just going to go through a lot more red tape because they can tax you for the utilities, as I said before. Or if you do it portable, it could be a lot more flexible if you do it that way.
Excellent. Any more questions for Mark? Put them in the chat now. It's your last chance. I've put his text in the chat if anyone wants further information. A little further up, I've put his website, which you can go check out plans and check out his contact information there. If no one has any other questions, that's pretty good, Mark. You're right at the hour mark there.
Yeah,
Pretty
thank
good
you.
timing.
Cool. I'll try and go pretty quick on anyway, guys. But there's a lot more I could talk about. There's so much stuff we've done with this, but hopefully this helps you guys out with what you want to do because
well, you know what? We'll keep in touch. Maybe we'll have you back sometime and do a little deeper dive.
yeah, okay.
And maybe sometime when you're not on the road and you can, put together a presentation and show us plans and stuff.
Yeah, I could definitely do that.
That'd be very cool. We certainly want to thank you for taking time out of your 8-hour trip to join us. It's been really informative. It's a really cool topic. I know I'd like to learn more about it. So let's definitely keep in touch.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. Hope you all have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you at our upcoming meetings. Remember to check out that marketing meeting. That's something we all need, and it's brand new, and we really want to support Allie. So hopefully we'll see you live at Mez and eat some tres leche cake together. Thanks everyone. Have a good night.